Welcome to Master Your Market. I'm Chris Ashmore. It's obvious that people connect with other human beings. They don't connect with a company brand. Think about the commercials on TV. They all use people to sell their products and services. If you're a small business owner or a consultant, you've got a huge advantage over larger corporations. So don't act like a corporate and hide behind a faceless brand. You are your own brand and you need to cultivate that. And how do you do that? Well, today's guest, Andrew Ford, helps with exactly that. He's the founder of Social Star, a branding agency that works with business professionals to build their personal and business brands. I've known Andrew for several years, and I asked him to give some practical advice on building a personal brand. Well, Andrew, to start with, thank you. Welcome to this podcast. Now, you're the personal brand expert, among other things, I'm sure, but maybe the first question, an obvious question, what is a personal brand and how is that different from, say, a business brand?
Chris, you ask all the good questions. Thanks for having me. We've had many dealings before and I'm always happy to talk to you. Look, there's three brands in any business that I talk to my clients about, and the first one is your personal brand, so you know, what you represent to the market. And when we're business owners, we project a business orientation of that brand. It's not all your deep and meaningful gooey insides. It's the thing that you help your clients with, but it is authentic and true. Then there's the business brand. So that is the name of your company, your company website, how you deal with the market in terms of conditions and so forth. And that's obviously influenced by the founder's brand, but its own brand in its entirety. And then the third brand is product brands. So that's where someone knows you for the things you do specifically by a term, by a brand of a term. And the way we use those three brands is how people access you. So how do they find you on the internet? How do they type into Google, or when someone refers you? Because most clients come business to business from referrals. What do they say? Do they say Andrew Ford? Do they say Social Star? Do they say e-traction, personal branding, websites, all the other things we do? So we find that the vast majority of people who sell intellectual property, rather than physical goods, they refer people by their individual names.
Right. For example, are you talking about like professional services, recruiters, lawyers, accountants, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we specialise in helping information professionals. So they are lawyers, doctors, accountants, but it goes into a variety of areas. So we do a lot of consultants. One of our big clients is a logistics provider. And when you're doing international freight forwarding, it's complex. And there is no product. It's your knowledge of the market, your connections, your contacts, your systems and software, all of which are intangible. So generally what happens in that particular company, they get a lot of the business still via the founders that have been there 30 years because people know them and they trust them and they like them. And when it's really important, they call that particular person or they refer the company. But when you do that, you don't know who you're going to get, right? So that's why professional services generally is to an individual. Even an accounting firm, will go to a person. Now, what we see is that time matters. So if someone's going to start their own business and they're selling their knowledge like a coach consultant, then their brand's the only one that matters because the business is new and they don't have any credibility in their business. They might have a business name and a website and a logo, but it doesn't matter in the trust factor. So it's 95% the trust of that person's past experience and actions, and then 5% the company. And they haven't got any products yet because they're not established. Then after about, we say 100 clients, and you've been around for maybe 2 years, then the business starts to have an impact and it might have 20%. So you might start getting referrals through your website or your LinkedIn page or something like that. Then after maybe 5 years and probably about 500 clients, your product becomes refined, robust, repetitive, codified, and then you can create a brand. And we have a brand called e-traction, which is our digital attraction. It's so you don't sell, you have clients come to you. And that's a trademark product. It's got a 12-step process. I've written a book about it. We've got a course. So that's codified, but we've been in business 12 years, right? So, that's the sequence, but still 80% of our business comes from me. 20% of the business comes from that, and virtually none comes through our products. Oh, that's not true. Probably about 5% come through, say, websites we've built and people see the link at the bottom. However, the conversion rate is much lower from products than the company, and then individuals is the strongest conversion rate, even, if we look at all the stats.
Right. So you're kind of walking the talk. Is that the right word? Talking the walk? Walking the talk,
Yeah.
where your business is sort of centered around you personally as your personal brand. Is that right?
It is at the moment. And the reason for that is, I started my business as a corporate escapee 12 years ago because my kids were little and I didn't want to do the corporate commute and fly around the country and do what they told me to do. So I left my great corporate job that paid me lots of money to start my own business to spend more time with my little kids. I know it was a bad time to do it, but it just sort of circumstances went that way. And then now my kids are older. One of my sons 18, the other one's 14. They're very self-sufficient. So now we're growing the business. So it used to be me and a couple of people. Now it's me and a growing team. There's about 12 people so far. And we're going multi-location. We run an expansion run. And so it's now starting to be not about me. And it's actually starting to be more about the company of Social Star as we get more people involved in the company. So it's not just timing, but it's size of business that matters a lot. So at the moment, I'm the sort of chief rainmaker. I bring in all the clients. However, all of my team does all the delivery. So they do all of the work. And once you've outsourced that, you can try and outsource marketing and sales. They do all the marketing too. I only do the sales component. And we're currently in the process of outsourcing that, not outsourcing, I should say, but leveraging our team to do that work. So I'll then be the avatar, as we call it. So if you think of a Richard Branson, you don't expect to rock up to a Virgin counter and he's selling you a plane ticket or a insurance policy or whatever it is. He's the halo effect of a personal brand in a business that is operated under his guidance and halo, but you don't expect them to be involved in the business. But they're still important in the branding of the business. Same as Steve Jobs, same as Elon Musk, same as all of those people. And people mistakenly think that if they build their brand, they're always going to be stuck in the business, and that's not true. It's really just a marketing way of communicating the values of the business, and it's the most powerful thing you have. It's the biggest asset we have is the founders, because they're the people who built the business. They're the people who have the passion, the values, and all of those things that are them is imprinted on the business, because every decision you make is based on who you are. So how you treat your employees, how you treat your customers, it's all imprinted on the business and the products you make.
Well, Steve Jobs would be a perfect example with that. I mean, he unfortunately, sadly, he passed away. But when people think of Apple, or certainly I do, I still think of Steve Jobs and that particular attention to detail of intuitive design. Maybe it's slipping a bit, and perhaps people that have worked there may attest to that. But it's still, his presence is still felt years after he's gone. It'd be the same with any, as you're saying, any owner has that influence on the business and the way it looks and feels. Yeah,
it's interesting. It's when you look at, because I love digging into founder stories, because it's how you see the truism of how businesses are created. And I grew up in a family business, and my grandfather started an office products company after the war, and my whole dream as a little kid was to work in the business and take it over. And I worked there for 8 years, but then my uncle took it over, and then he didn't want to give it to me, so I didn't get to follow that path. But then I went to work for Hewlett-Packard, and the interesting thing was Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, who started Silicon Valley, who Steve Jobs was a sort of a mentee of them. He grew up down the street from where the first garage company, IT garage company was, which is, Bill and Dave's garage. But that was a founder-led business, and they grew that business to $40 billion in their lifetime. And then when I got there, the first descendant of them was there. So what I mean by that is the COO who was working there when the founders were there was there, and he ran it just the same, just like Tim Cook's running Apple the same. But then they had another CEO come in, and then a merger and other CEOs, and the essence and the culture and the Bill and Dave effect is not there. Like, I was there during that tumultuous time, and they kind of ruined it, in my opinion. And this is what you see is as the founders become less, so when Tim Cook hands it over to Apple to someone else, who hands it over to someone else, they'll make drastic changes and the culture will change dramatically. And then the founder is, then becomes just a normal corporation and, faceless, if you like. And that's normally the way that it progresses. But that's a benefit of the companies I work with. They're all founder-driven. We only work with founder-driven businesses. We don't work with any corporations because we love telling their stories, and that's great marketing. Like the videos of them, their books, their blogs, their heartfelt journeys is really the selling feature of the company.
And is it particularly these days that authenticity that you get from a person versus a non-entity like a brand, you don't get that connection, but you do get it with an actual person. And as you say, those stories, whether it's in a video or a podcast or face-to-face, whatever, that's what maybe sets them apart from corporations?
It is, and that's their way of competing compared to the big companies that have more resources. So I did big company marketing when I was at IBM, Hewlett-Packard, Telstra, and I had millions and millions of dollars to spend and lots of resources. So they are the gorilla who have the muscle, and so smaller organisations have more of the finesse and the meaning, the why story, if you quote Simon Sinek. So that's how they compete in their various matches. It's the David versus Goliath, the David with the smart tools and the keen eye, and the Goliath with the big muscles. And we know how that worked out. So, our clients generally bat above their weight because they use their natural abilities to their advantage. And often they try to act like big companies. They think, we'll act like, big companies and have a website that don't have people and doesn't have this meaning. And I'm like, no, that's the opposite. Because people, they want to look like a corporate, but they don't act like a corporate. And so we help them in that thinking and then in the application of it.
Yeah. Well, can we go into a bit of detail there? You mentioned a website, but other activities, whether it's website or social media marketing or whatever, what do you suggest people do to make their website look personal and their social media? Any thoughts?
Oh, yeah, we've got a process. So we call it the expert marketing system. And what it is generally people we work with, because they're information professionals, they generally are selling their time or their abilities. And whether you're leveraging that with some automation, it really comes down to you need to be there for a lot of it. I still need to be required for the key elements of my clients, obviously the onboarding, but also the strategy and the workshops and whenever there's an issue. So I'm still required in the company. I just do less of it than my teammates. So the expert management system, which we use internally, so we eat our own dog food, if you like, we do everything that we tell our clients to do. So I don't tell clients to write a book unless I've written a book, and do a podcast unless I've done a podcast. So what we do is we capture the content from people, generally in video format, and we spend a half day with them. Obviously lots of preparation, but we get there and we do a day. And in that time, we can provide 6 months of content for them in a sequence. And the sequence we find works best is 1 video, 1 blog, and 2 posts a month, right? So it's only 4 posts, but they're carefully constructed, they're well made, it's about having quality over quantity, and because our clients work mainly on LinkedIn. It's their LinkedIn, it's Google via their website, we use YouTube for the videos, and that we find has, and there's lots of little sort of things about that works, like we get into Google snippets. When you post blogs on LinkedIn, they rank separately to actually LinkedIn profile. You get a lot of different hits on your Google search result from that. So we're very careful about our SEO strategy, mapping the client journey so we know exactly where to interact with them. And we find that amount of content is heaps. And we find any more is actually annoying to clients. And this is the statistics we find from LinkedIn. Now, a lot of people would use, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so forth, but that's not where our audience comes from. Generally people don't choose the professional services companies we know from that. It could be influential, but the amount of time, effort, and reward from that market or that marketing is not the same, is not commiserate with what we do. We found our system works the best for our particular clients, and we've been doing this for a long time, and we we have really strong processes about how to do that efficiently. So, for the audience listening, if you're in that professional services, less is more. Go higher quality less often, and because you're trying to be a thought leader, you're an expert.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
you shouldn't be needy and spraying the world with content. It's about being, precision content to the right people when needed.
Right, because you often hear, I often hear, and reading blog posts and whatever, that you got to just almost spam the market with so much content and posts every day and this, that, and the other. But I think there's so much of it, not just from yourself, but from one person, but everyone's doing the same thing. And if it isn't outstanding content, it's just a waste of time, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, and the way I sort of think about it is, if you think about other analogies, say a restaurant, right? And I'm in Melbourne, so there's lots of restaurants, and but everywhere's got good restaurants these days. So if you look at the restaurants that have stood the test of time and the ones that have been around for a long time, they're not on the main street with big lights and neon flashing specials, half price this. They just have good food, good environment, and good service, and consistency. And this is what people are looking for, and people search them out rather than have a fad. And we don't want to be fads. We want to have long-term, consistent, clients. And we find that the latest trend, I generally examine trends for a while before we jump on board of them, because we find that they're not long-lasting, and people invest a lot of time and money into those, whereas we do the tried and true. Podcasting is one of the best, for sure. Like we are a huge advocate for podcasting.
Why?
The level of intimacy, the lower cost of setup and production. Now you get video with these great systems as well as audio. You get length of time. Video is short, maximum 5 minutes that we do, but we do long videos. We don't do the short 30-second ones. So we do long videos, but podcasting, you get half an hour, 45 minutes. That's like, that's podcasting's, if we can get them to do a podcast, but that's not that system. That's not, half a day every 6 months. That requires a lot more time and energy, and so and talent. Whereas the video doesn't require any talent because we do all the work. But podcasting requires much more. It's the right client, and we do have podcasts, and I highly recommend them. But for the right person, it's gold. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You kind of touched on it before, but I want to ask a question about the name of a business. So whether to have a separate name completely to, say you're a practice owner, a recruiter, a stand-alone lawyer, should you have a different name for your business? And before you answer, a couple of episodes ago, a good friend of mine is a recruiter in Tokyo. He started his own business. He's been recruiting for well over a decade now. And his clients and everyone knows him by his name, Nick Mina. And when he started his own business 2 years ago, he created the company Aristos and Mina. But he admits no one knows who Aristos and Mina is. Everyone knows who Nick Mina is.
Yeah.
And so my question is, should someone think about having a different name to their own name when setting up a business?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I get this all the time. So we have a workshop we do for all new clients. It's a foundation workshop. And one of the questions I ask, or we go through a whole series of processes about their lives and what they want and so forth. And one of them is, do you want a cash business or an asset business? And this comes from my entrepreneurial background. So a cash business is where it's Andrew Ford Consulting. I could call it Social Star if I want, but it's just me, right? And so it's just me. Maybe I've got an assistant and I run it for 10 years. And then when I'm ready to retire, I just close it down because you can't sell it, right? There's no systems and processes that are meaningful to be able to operate without me being present. It's a key person dependent business. And the thing is, you make the cash as you go along, you invest in property and shares, or whatever you feel like investing in, rather than back into the business to create these systems. Now, that's one style of business. So if you have that, just put it under your own name, right? And it could be Andrew Ford Consulting Pty Ltd. However, you're right, people are going to Google me because that's all it is. Now, if you want an asset business, that's one that you hope to sell after the 10 years, but you have to put money, time and resources into building a team systems and processes so they can operate without you, because it's very difficult to get any sort of multiple if you have to be there, right? So to have a team, you need a team of like 12 people, and you need to have robust systems and processes for sales, marketing, delivery, and administration in order to you not be there. And so that's a different quest, and it's a different journey. And so we ask people at the start, which one do you want? And if they want a cash business, we set them up with a very lean personal brand, and they can get started like very quickly. Now, you still have to have ways of delivering, but you don't need to have ways of delivering that are so robust that someone else could walk in and do it for you tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so this expert marketing system, I don't deliver it. Our team delivers the whole thing turnkey. In fact, I can't even do it because I don't have the technical skills of video editing and, all the different things that they use the whole team of people who need to deliver it. Mm-hmm. So when I used to do it, it was very different. We would just do blogs. And that was our main thing, because I could write blogs and I could help you write blogs. And so now what we're doing is we're going to the next level. And and it's timing as well. Video is just very popular, in the last few years. As I said, I've been doing this a long time. So, over 15 years, things change, as you know. So that's the distinction. Do you want a cash business or an asset business? And the quest is different from the start. The way you set up your company structure, the way you do your branding, the way you, it's all very different. And one is you make the money during the process, or you make it at the end when you sell it. There's a difference.
If you decide on an asset business, there's still that personal brand that you need to amplify.
Yes.
Does it make sense? I have no idea, to have the asset business name plus your own website for your own personal brand?
Yes.
Or don't bother?
No, 100%.
Yep. Oh.
We do it all. So, and the reason why we like a personal website for founders is because when they Google your name, that comes to the top. And the next best thing is LinkedIn, which is great, but LinkedIn is a rented platform. You don't own it. And I've had clients who have had their LinkedIn profiles just turned off like that. So imagine if you put your whole database on LinkedIn and all of a sudden LinkedIn decides for whatever reason they stop it. Or someone comes and buys your favorite platform like Twitter turning into X and suddenly doesn't operate as you used to, and you spent 10 years building a brand there. So having your own website with your own content, with flexibility to do whatever you want, is to me golden. Comes up number one, LinkedIn comes up number two. If you've got Wikipedia, that'll come up really strongly as well. But they'll always be able to find you and be able to access you as a brand. Then you want your company brand to have its own website and its own brand, because that website will feature completely different things. If you look at my website, Andrew Ford, it's all about me and speaking and consulting. My book, if you go to my company website, Social Star, it's all pictures of the team. And this is, you asked me this before, is the personalization is, there's lots of pictures of the team, we're doing activities, all, the blogs are written by all of us, we all contribute, and there's lots of different things that is very personally written rather than from a corporate tone of voice. That's sort of the main difference. Right, a lot of corporates are faceless. There's no pictures of people, it's all stock, those are things. We even have websites for individual products. So if you, for instance, if you have a podcast, if you have a book, if you have something that's technology, we often create another website for that. Websites are cheap. They're not difficult to set up. They're very easy. They're quick, and they're easy to update these days. So we say, why not have one of each? Just in case a client is searching on that particular thing, get them back to you. Make sure that all roads lead to business with the organisation.
Right. Look, there's so much we could talk about with personal brand. We could be here all day, but I'll just maybe one last question, Andrew. You mentioned Richard Branson before, but are there any other any other people that you think that their personal brand is spot on, that they've done it well?
I'm going to throw a controversial one out there, probably not what you think, but I'm going to talk about Elon Musk. And his personal brand has gone up and down, and some people love him, some people hate him. And some people used to love him and now hate him, and it's vice versa. The reason why I use him is because of his authenticity. But the thing is, whether you like him or not like him, he is influential. So he can change the price of markets and so forth on a tweet. which is not common in many other people. Richard Branson can't do that. So you look at what he did with Dogecoin, you look what he's doing with the, cars and so forth. And one thing that I'll say to prove the point is, when SpaceX had the rocket that went up and then came back and landed on its base again as a reusable rocket, the Tesla car stock shot up. I can't remember the exact stat. It was like 30%. Now, they're different companies. So there should be, and there's no shared technology. It's not like cars are going to suddenly rocket up into space. So why would that stock go up? And the only linkage is Elon Musk himself. And people believing that if he can do that, wow, imagine what he could do with cars. Belief, right? Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's what brand is. It's not a belief in Tesla. What Tesla is a corporation. It's a piece of paper, right? It's a legal structure. We believe in people. Companies are just people. And whether it's the founder, the entire team, or a celebrity that you hire to market your products, there's always going to be a face of an organization. And if you have one, that's really great. And Nespresso's done really well with George Clooney, for instance. They're cemented and done very well. But people want to see people. People trust people. People don't trust entities. So that's why we say your personal brand or a brand in your company just gives you an edge over those who are not doing branding, who are only doing meta advertising and marketing products. Even with product marketing, we do this. It's just a different mix of between the people and the company and the product marketing. So get your brand on.
Definitely. I'm glad you used Elon Musk. He's always interesting. Everybody has an opinion about him.
Yeah.
And he's a good one. Andrew, thank you so much for this. It's been terrific talking to you about personal brand, and I hope we have another chat another time.
Yeah,
thanks, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate. Thanks, Chris.